We've been working with a lot of cool listings lately, and it got me thinking, where would I move if I didn't currently live in Huntington Hills? Which neighborhood would I find myself attracted to or drawn to? So I started compiling a list of my favorite neighborhoods, and today's video, we are going to specifically talk about 10 of my favorite neighborhoods in Fort Collins, Colorado. My name is Patrick Soukup, and this is the Living in Fort Collins YouTube channel, where you come to learn everything there is to know about Fort Collins: eating, sleeping, playing, working, favorite neighborhoods. And that's what we're talking about today. Now, if you're considering moving or relocating to Northern Colorado, give my team and I a call, text, or email. We've worked with hundreds of families moving to Northern Colorado and would love to be a resource and asset for you and your team. Now, without any further delay, let's jump into today's video, my 10 favorite neighborhoods in Fort Collins, Colorado. Let's go. All right, now these are in no particular order, and it was really kind of fun to build out this list. And in fact, I put out a survey on my Instagram. I was asking people, kind of comparing two different neighborhoods, because one thing that I think is interesting, there are a lot of neighborhoods that are similar. Like there's a couple neighborhoods that are built right next to each other that maybe you would choose one or the other. And some of those were like Paragon Point or Southridge Greens, Miramont or Huntington Hills. And what I found was a lot of people chose the neighborhood that they either grew up in or currently live in, which is great to hear because ultimately it suggests that really the grass is greener where you water it. And that suggests that some of these neighborhoods, I think everyone could grow to love a ton of different neighborhoods within Fort Collins. Now, when we narrowed it down to 10, it really was hurtful because we left out a lot of great neighborhoods: Oak Ridge Village, Quail Hollow, Taft Canyon, Clarendon Hills, let's see here, Terry Shores. We left out a lot of different neighborhoods. Miramont, we left out Miramont. And I don't think that there is any neighborhood that really shines above the rest. And like I said, these are just neighborhoods that I found myself would be drawn to for one reason or another. And we will discuss those as we get rocking. But number one is actually South College Heights, which is interesting. Now, here in South College Heights, it's between Drake and Prospect Road, just to the east of College Avenue, right in Midtown, near Whole Foods, the New King Supers. And these houses were a little bit older, built between 1955, 1965. The elementary school is O'Day Elementary, but these houses are super unique. They're kind of smaller, on the smaller size, really on the high side, 21 to 2,500 square feet. A lot of them have one-car garages, but really, the desire here would be to have a little bit smaller footprint, lower cost of living as far as utilities and things of that nature, and you would really be able to bike, ride, and have the ability to only have one vehicle. And you would be right next to the South College Community Association pool, and again, just middle of town. You couldn't beat the location on this neighborhood. Now, this next one is somewhere special in my heart, and I think a lot of people might not necessarily say this could be their favorite neighborhood, but for me, Indian Hills, right in the middle of town, again, between Prospect and Drake, just to the west of LeMay. These houses built in the 60s and 70s. A lot of them, again, ranch, no HOA, O'Day Elementary. It's just a great neighborhood, very well maintained. People have huge pride of ownership. Now, there have been a lot of houses that have turned over and massive renovations have occurred. In fact, we just sold my granddad's house, which is kind of like super heavy and hard and emotionally taxing on myself and the family. But this is where I grew up, going to Christmas Eve, seeing all the family. It's just a very well-maintained neighborhood, well-kept, no HOA, middle of town, close to everything, a lot of close to CSU, close to downtown. So I just don't feel like you can go wrong with Indian Hills. Now, number 3 is Parkwood and Parkwood East. I was actually comparing the two, and I think there are significant enough differences to allow them both to be kind of on my favorites list. Parkwood and Parkwood East, similar age builds here, Riffenberg Elementary, middle of town, on this side between Drake and Prospect, but on the east side of LeMay. Now, the things that make this super special and unique is it's right next to Epic, the Adora Pool and Ice Center. as well as budding the Power Trail and the Spring Creek Trail. Middle of town, there's lots of different price points here. In fact, these houses were actually built all the way between 1965 to 1990s because you have Parkwood and then you have Parkwood East, and there's different price points and price tags. It's a pretty big neighborhood. You're just to the north of Drake on this neighborhood, and Midtown is very close. You know, technically you're southeast because you're south of Prospect and east of College Avenue, but great school, great area, lots of things to do, good lot sizes. Parkwood and Parkwood East would definitely be a neighborhood that I'd consider moving to. Now, this is a huge fan favorite for really everyone who is looking at Fort Collins, lives in Fort Collins, which is Fossil Lake Ranch, which is about as far southeast Fort Collins as you can get. South of Kechter, east of Ziegler Road, and this neighborhood, built in the 2000s, 2010s, elementary school is Zach Elementary, which is very desired, a core knowledge type school. But everyone loves this neighborhood because it's old enough to where there's mature landscaping on the southeast side of town. You've got pools, walking paths, you're right next to Twin Silos Park. Fossil Ridge High School is right there. Preston Middle School is nearby. With the development of the Harmony Corridor, you've got some commercial right there. And then if you wanted to go downtown, taking Ziegler all the way to Drake, to Timberline, to Prospect, to Jefferson, you can get downtown probably in about 13 to 14 minutes, which is amazing considering you are about as far southeast Fort Collins as you can get, but you can kind of take that back area. So Fossil Lake Ranch is definitely a neighborhood that I would consider moving to. Now, this one actually kind of hurt to put on here because I would say, you know, we compared and contrasted on this Instagram poll that I put on, which was, would you rather live in Warren Shores or the Landings? I grew up in Warren Shores and loved it. It was a great area, Warren Lake right there, Warren Park, all that good stuff. But I actually think the Landings is where I would prefer to move to versus Warren Shores. Now, the Landings, these homes were built in the 1980s, would feed into Cruz Elementary, and you're on the southeast side of Fort Collins, really sandwiched between Horsetooth and Harmony Road, just to the west of LeMay, the portion of LeMay that is heading further south. You know, funny story about that, I always thought that was North LeMay and South LeMay because we live on a grid system in Fort Collins, and there's arteries going north and south and arteries going east and west. And most of them all just pretty much run continuously. But LeMay is one of those weird ones that as you're going north along Warren Park, it breaks off on Horsetooth. So you actually have to turn onto Horsetooth and then continue heading north on LeMay if you're wanting to go that direction. But I invited a friend over to the house one day, told him, hey, you gotta go past the North LeMay and then take your first left to get to my house. And those were terrible directions because he headed all the way north near Terry Shores, near the country club, where it actually does turn into North LeMay. And I am in Midtown. Warren Shores is where I grew up. But the Landings is a great neighborhood, pool, tennis courts, easy bikeability. You're actually really close to a lot of commercial activity on Harmony and then as well as JFK. So if you got a fiend for going to Home Depot, King Soopers is right there, breakfast, restaurants along Harmony and 287 right there. So you're in a great location, and the Landings would definitely be an area that I would consider moving to. Now, the newest neighborhood that's gonna be on my favorites list is Kor Farm. We bought a house in 2013 in West Chase, and we'd walk our dogs along this path, and to the east of this neighborhood, West Chase, was this farm field. And while we were living there, it started to get developed by Toll Brothers. So these houses built really in the 2010s and finished in the early 2020s by Toll Brothers is this really great development. It's a newer build. I love Toll Brothers as a builder that feeds into Bacon Elementary, and you are very far southeast. You are just really to the west of Fossil Lake Ranch. So you're south of Kechter Road, and then you're sandwiched between Ziegler and Timberline right there for Kor Farm. But this neighborhood, I really like it because you actually get some of these newer amenities. A lot of these communities that are built in Timnath are very desirable because they've got these great water park type pools and entertainment, community centers, crafted around community. And in Fort Collins, as we don't have too many new developments in Fort Collins, I mean, we do have some, don't get me wrong, but because we've been built out really all the way into the early 2000s, early 2010s, but nothing really that today's buyers looking for is this community, pickleball courts, all this kind of stuff. Not to say that there are neighborhoods that don't have it, but Kor Farm is one of those that have a newer community style center, as well as kind of a water feature type pool, and great location. Kennard Middle School, which is a school of choice middle school, core knowledge. Bacon Elementary, great area, close to Twin Silos Park. Newer, love Toll Brothers, would definitely consider Kor Farm as a new place and a favorite place of mine. Now this one I kind of had to eat crow on a few years ago. It's in the northwest side of Fort Collins, and this neighborhood's kind of like this silo neighborhood out there because you have a lot of multifamily, you do got a lot of rentals, but then you've got this great neighborhood in the Ponds. And the Ponds, built in the 1990s, early 2000s, is a great neighborhood that feeds into Bowder Elementary, and it's on the northwest side of Fort Collins, north of Prospect Road, west of Overland Trail. And this area is really pretty cool because it's got cool walking paths all throughout it. You are definitely very close to Horsetooth Lake. North, you can head up to the Poudre River or Red Feathers Lakes very quickly comparatively to where my house is on the southeast side of town. But I would say one thing that happened when we had friends move into this neighborhood is, hey, you are on the foothills. And well, you've got wildlife that comes with that. And specifically, you could have some big ass bull snakes that really are there and are a good thing. They can be aggressive, so make sure if you got kiddos to keep them away a little bit, but they keep the rattlesnakes away, which is awesome. And so you do have some wildlife in your backyard, but we've seen a lot of like cool families, young families moving around there, kids activities. And when I was driving through it, I was like, man, I could see myself living here. And before that, I was talking with a client from Chicago that ended up buying in this neighborhood. And I was kind of saying, hey, you're on the northwest side of town. You know, there's not a lot going on over here, not a lot of commercial, but they loved it. They fell in love with it. There's commercial close enough on Drake and Taft and heading up Prospect Road, a lot of cool things going on there, and Elizabeth as well. So there's commercial close enough for them, but being on the northwest side, being close to the nature, you can walk over the ridge to Horsetooth Lake is definitely something special, and the Ponds is definitely one of my now favorite neighborhoods. And getting down to our final three, Westfield Park. Now, this neighborhood's a little bit smaller, not a ton of houses come up here, but this is on the southwest side of town, just south of Horsetooth Road, smushed between Shields and Taft. But these homes were built in the 2000s and feed into Johnson Elementary. And one of the things that I think people really like here is there are a lot of cul-de-sacs, so safe neighborhoods. You're right there, you have access to a membership pool, Johnson Elementary, Weber Middle School, which I never thought about it, but now having kind of young kids and the idea that they could ride their bike to Werner Elementary and then subsequently walk to Weber Middle School is very enticing. I love the idea of them being able to walk and bike to school, but conversely from when I was growing up where my parents would just let me go and ride my bike to school, but I would have to cross a couple busier roads, and it was not a short ride from my house to Cruz Elementary, but I don't know if I'd be down for that with my kids. Maybe my mind changes once they get a little bit older and maybe they mature and I don't have such kind of young kid toddler type, but more young teen type that maybe are a little bit more mature. I don't know, I'm kind of moving into that area. But that's very enticing, and there's parks and open areas, walking paths, you're near the Mason trails, so you're cool, close to biking trails, and really kind of a quiet part of town. One of the things I don't like is that if you are heading east, you would have to go across the railroad tracks. That could cause you a little bit of a delay, but that's really the only thing that I wouldn't love about living in Westfield Park. Whenever we take clients on a driving tour through Fort Collins, we generally end up going through this neighborhood because it's a good price point, good lot sizes. People who have lived here, we know a lot of people who live in this neighborhood have taken really good care of it and really speak highly of it. And we found that it's a pretty sought after neighborhood, which is English Ranch. We just sold one of our lifetime friends' family houses there. They lived there for 30 years. These houses were built in the 1990s. A lot of them are 2-story, some ranches, but many 2-story houses that feeds into Linton Elementary. And this again is on the southeast side of Fort Collins, just south of Horsetooth Road to the west of Ziegler and near the Front Range Village, which is very attractive. There are some kind of development issues going on right there with Union Park that's being built in a potential connecting street there, but you're close to Fort Collins High School. You can really get down Horsetooth Road pretty quick. Easy access to Harmony Corridor and I-25. I just really like this location, and the friends and family and clients that we've had buy in here and either buy and or sell have just really spoken highly of this neighborhood. And I could see myself moving in and really enjoying being close to the Front Range Village and other families and other people that really just take care of their properties in English Ranch. All right, so I've got to throw it out there, and I would move right back into Huntington Hills. So I bought this house in 2016 and didn't really understand how cool or special Huntington Hills was until I moved here, and have really fallen in love with the neighborhood. And we've decided just recently, this last year actually, we did a major renovation to our house because we wanted to stay here. We are feeding into Werner Elementary. Homes here were built in the 1990s, early 2000s. Again, we feed into Werner Elementary, and we are pretty far southeast. We're just north of Trilby Road, and then we're sandwiched between, because Huntington Hills is actually really pretty big as far as the neighborhood goes, but we're sandwiched between College Avenue and LeMay Avenue, and south, of course, of Harmony Road. But I really enjoy being near Fossil Creek Park. That hill we go sledding at. We take the kids on bike rides. There's basketball courts, tennis courts, great parks. The only thing that I really don't like about it is Fort Collins is really pushing for these 15-minute cities. And we started with one of our favorite neighborhoods of South College Heights, which is absolutely bikeable, easily to live with one car, and you'd be able to bike, walk for your groceries, dinner, restaurants, all that good stuff. Conversely to Huntington Hills, you're very much needing your vehicle. I mean, you can absolutely bike to Otto Pint, and you can go to Dominic's for dinner or La Buena Vida, great restaurants nearby. Shopping's a little bit further, so I wouldn't really want to bring my groceries. So that's probably the biggest downside of Huntington Hills, is you are pretty car dependent, but great parks, schools, the neighborhood's very well maintained, a cool neighborhood pool that I think we're gonna get our kids involved with the swim team there, but great location too. If you're, especially my wife, she works in Johnstown, so easy access off of Carpenter Road to I-25, lots of different things to consider. But I think ultimately one thing that I found while doing a lot of this research, asking questions and talking to people, is that everyone loves the neighborhood that they live in. And like I said at the beginning of this video, the grass is greener where you water it. And if you move into a neighborhood or a subdivision, it is about building that community, building those friendships, relationships, and pouring into that same neighborhood. And I think you get, paid back in dividends. That being said, these are my 10 favorite neighborhoods in Fort Collins that I would absolutely consider moving to if I weren't living in Huntington Hills, which, as you know now, one of them is Huntington Hills. Now, if you have any questions about moving to Fort Collins or relocating, or if you're selling in Fort Collins, give us a call. We love making these videos. We like more working with clients, moving, selling, relocating, investing in Northern Colorado. Thank you for watching. Until next time, take care.